Hey guys, it's Pete from Pete from Anxiety here. Welcome into today's episode. I appreciate y'all being here so much. Let's talk about a few things real quick. The Pete vs. Anxiety Team Anxiety Facebook group. Are you a part of it? You're not? What are you waiting for? The link's down here in the description down below, or go to Facebook and search Pete vs. Anxiety. Then look for the Team Anxiety team page and join it today. Why not? You can join and help. It'll be great. Yeah, like right now. Hurry up. Stop what you're doing, pause this video, go do it right now. But anyways, let's also talk about the Pete vs. Anxiety YouTube page. If you're here right now, you're probably following it most likely. If not, head on over there, subscribe, be sure to like and comment on the videos and let me know, because all that stuff really helps, guys. I really appreciate it. And help me break the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. But anyways, guys, let's get into today's episode. I'll have a great one. Thank you so much again. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is, ask how your mental health is today.
Guys, welcome to a special edition of Pete vs. Anxiety. My guest today has 20 years helping people heal from mental health issues and addiction recovery. Please welcome the author of The Recovery Way, the one, the only Mark. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great, Pete. Thank you so much for having me on here, man. This is great.
Definitely, man. Like, Mark, why don't you tell me a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I was born on a... No, I'm kidding. So, well, I will go back kind of far, because a lot of times people will ask, like, how did you get involved or get started in the mental health and addiction space, and kind of like what do you do? Well, at the time I didn't know that it would actually paint this entire path forward for me. But when my parents got divorced at 6, and then at about 8 years old, my aunt on my mom's side was in and out of rehab, was struggling with drugs, and so she came and lived with us. She got kicked out of rehab, came and lived with us, and she was the outspoken, the fun, the aunt that all us kids just loved being around.
Yeah.
And I happen to have bunk beds in my room, so lucky me, she actually got to stay in my room. So it was like, how cool is this? Every night a sleepover with Aunt Steffi, and it's going to be fun. And so, gosh, it probably took me 15 years to actually understand this memory, because I repressed it. But what happened is, at 8 years old, I walked in one day and my aunt was sleeping on the floor. She was just lying there lifeless. And I remember these pills being strewn all across the floor. So 8-year-old boy, I'm walking, I can feel the crunch underneath my feet. And I go up and I start shaking her, just kind of rocking, like, Aunt Steffi, what's going on? Like, wake up, wake up. And she wasn't waking up. And I intuitively knew something was wrong, but I had no idea the correlation of drugs and overdose. And so I go and I grab my mom, fortunately, and she comes in and ends up reviving her. But my mom had one rule for my aunt to stay with us, and that was, you can't use or bring drugs in here, because it was me and my younger sister at the time. And so my mom helped her get to another place. And then a few months later, same thing happened, but there was no 8-year-old boy there to actually save her. So she died of an overdose. So I don't have much memories around that time. Apparently, my coping mechanism I learned after a lot of therapy was, I'm a stuffer. So I would just stuff and stuff. And then eventually after college, it kind of all erupted. I became suicidal, clinically depressed. Life just really sucked, even though on the outside, I was great at the presentation mode. A lot of us guys do of hey, I just graduated college. I'm in commercial real estate. Our band just got signed. We're going on tour. Everything looked great, but inside I was so hollow, just not really understanding. And then eventually the band would break up, and all the normal stuff happens that you watch on like VH1, Where Are They Now? We just never made it to get the Where Are They Now? But it just so happened I was kind of chasing job after job, always enthralled with business and different things, but never really found my passion. And then I remember one day, actually, my dad called and said, "Hey, we're gonna help some people. We're setting up a sober living. Do you want to come work with us?" And he'd asked me a few times before, and I pushed it off. But I still remember he said, "Well, pray about it." And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. And I prayed about it, and I don't know how to explain it other than I felt this fire, like in my solar plex. And so I remember giving my boss notice and just saying, I don't understand this, but I got to go give it a shot. And then that's when these memories started coming back of just always wanting to be there with my aunt and wanting to help other people, and eventually learn that what happened to her is 100% preventable and avoidable once the work is done. And so how do we help whoever needs this message so they don't ever have to go through what me and my family went through? And so that just started the process of really getting educated and learning a ton about mental health and addiction and sedation versus creation and all these other things. And so fast forward, coming up almost on 25 years now, I wake up Mondays excited to say, how am I going to be used? How do we get the message out of what the work is, the foundational work, in order to begin to retrain or rewire the brain to really heal and to create a life that you love, that you don't want to sedate or retire from. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting journey. I mean, a lot of people I find though have a lot of childhood trauma like that, or their parents divorce or something happens that causes them to go. And I could agree with the whole, start praying about things, because I took religion in about a year ago before I even started this, and then all of a sudden it would just hit me. It's like I want to do something else other than what I'm doing now. Because I had a podcast prior to this called Pete's Corner Store, where I was just messing around with a friend, doing some stuff. And we started getting a little controversial with topics. So in case anybody finds it, I could already explain what happened there. It got out of hand quick, So I had to make the decision to stop, I'm going to reset, figure something new. And then it just hit me. I was doing my own mental health issues, things like that. And all of a sudden it just came to me, Pete versus anxiety. Because I'm thinking of it as like anxiety is a constant battle for me some days. In the beginning, it was really bad for me. I'd always have these panic attacks and things like that. But ever since doing this and being in therapy, it's been great, because I get to meet people such as yourself doing different things and real amazing things, publishing books like yours and stuff like that, are helping people every day. And, it's been an interesting journey so far, and like I just told you off air, we're on road out 100. This Monday 9 a.m. will be the 100th episode live. I've done this. I've done a bunch of pre-recorded other stuff, but so there's more. I couldn't even tell you how many episodes I've recorded at this point. So there's so much out there. I've had so many different people. So it's great that you're here, though, because I love highlighting people such as yourself doing these great things. And it's just like God puts these people in my path completely. Different people have come in my way to teach me new things and help other people get, awareness out there and stuff like that. So I appreciate everything you're doing. I really do, because addiction's hard, man, and I've talked to several people about it. Sometimes it's just like a lot of people say you just have to watch them self-destruct. Now, is that really true? Do we really have to watch them self-destruct, Mark?
Well, I believe there's a spectrum of addiction. There's everything from, I remember one of the guys I went to high school with and ended up being roommates with my best friend in college. He had a big coke problem. And when his father passed, his family came to him and said, you have to step up now and run the company, the family business. And he made a decision right then and there, said, I just won't use again, and never had. And that kind of blew my mind. And then there's the other end of the spectrum of my aunt ended up dying from this. Yeah. And so there's everything in between. So for some people, it does unfortunately become their story, is they don't change until they have that spiritual awakening, or they hit rock bottom, they call it. There's all different types of what they refer to it to. But for a lot of people, and this is normal human nature, we don't change until the pain of staying the same far outweighs the pain or the psychological pain of actual change. And it all has to do with that uncertainty. So that's one of the reasons why I jump on these podcasts and help spread the word of it doesn't have to be that way. If there's a part of you that feels out of alignment, or that maybe you're aware of going, you know what, this isn't who I am. I don't know how I got here, but this no longer resonates with what I'm doing. I feel like I'm meant for more, something different. That is where we can start implementing the tools to make the change, so we don't find ourselves over here on the spectrum of it's too late, game over.
No, I agree. I like that. I like how we don't want to make the negative numbers. I call them the negative numbers because, when it comes to all those kind of different things, especially addiction, there's too many of those negative numbers. We know it's a problem for a lot of these things. We know mental health's an issue, but we don't do anything about it either. We just kind of talk. Some people talk about it. And the whole reason this podcast exists is just to force the conversation out there. And I've got so much demand to be on here. You already know, I got so much demand to be on this thing, everybody wanting to be here. So it's great when you get different people's point of views about things, because especially with the addiction, it's hard to watch people go through that stuff, because you see too many times people don't get enough help, and then we lose people because, they're drinking too much, or they give into their, their drug addiction overdoses and things like that, and it's hard for people to watch. So do you have any tips for anybody, for somebody that they see a friend needs help? What can they do to help them, Mark? What do you think they should do?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of several things that individual can do. So the biggest thing is I have not met a person yet that either is suffering from mental health or addiction issues that says, I love this, I'm going to keep doing this. Every single person says like this isn't me. I want to stop, but I keep doing the thing that I said I was going to stop. So the first thing is we look at what is the why. So why, or what is it that they're looking to get out of that method of sedation? So to answer your question directly, I actually, because I get asked this all the time, I created a document that I just put in Google Documents. So it's for free that anybody that wants it. Are you cool if I share it with
Yeah,
your
go ahead.
community?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So the way that people can find it is I'm on Instagram. I'm answering a lot of the questions on there. So you can find me at Pacific Shores Recovery. So once you do that, click follow and just go ahead and DM me habits. And what I'll do is I'll just give you my blueprint, again, 100% free, but it's basically the different habits. And I'm going to explain a little bit more, but it's the habits that we have seen thousands and thousands of case studies go through of what those that actually begin to retrain and rewire their brain are doing, just a little bit of work each day that is leading to the results they're looking for. So here's how I discovered this. Probably the first 5 to 10 years I was working under the kind of older modalities, which are still great. A lot of AA, a lot of talk therapy and different things. But I started to see a direct correlation of, we had people come in around the same time, have the same therapists in our treatment center, the same case managers, sit in the same groups. And then we do like a 6-month follow-up, a year follow-up, and we'd see one would be thriving in life. They're doing great in relationships. They're working. They love life. And the other person's still struggling. And I thought, what are we missing? There's got to be something, because they got the same information. So I started to recognize that the issue wasn't education. It was application and execution of the education. And so as I started just asking more and more questions, I've never been afraid to be the guy that asked the dumb questions. I started getting the answers. And so case after case after case, I started asking, and that's where we came up with the 5 foundational freedoms. So here's what we noticed is there are different aspects of life that the ones that were thriving and building these lives that they absolutely love, which is full of happiness and fulfillment, it doesn't mean their life is perfect. There's still ups and downs. But what we found is they would focus just a little bit each day in this holistic approach of every area of life, where we'd see the people struggling would either focus on one aspect, such as finances or something like that, and ignore the others. And so kind of a quick, I guess, cheat code, if you would, is here's what the 5 are in no order. Those that were thriving were putting their fitness first. So they were doing something, either moving or working out. And this is why I love this type of framework, is it wasn't like, you got to do CrossFit. I got a lot of friends that are CrossFitters, and they tell me I got to do CrossFit. I'm not a CrossFit guy. But with the framework, it's what do you want to do to sweat? Because our bodies were made to move. We weren't made to sit behind computers and just kind of just check out all day. And so we noticed as people were moving, one of the organic byproducts was their brain chemistry started to change. They actually started releasing serotonin and other feel-good chemicals that actually would help them start to feel different. So that was one aspect in the fitness realm. Then we started asking some more questions, and we found a faith realm. They would spend a little bit of time, either some would call it prayer, some would call it meditation, but I call it communing with your creator. You spend time each day with this intimate relationship, something that says, I'm not the center of this universe. In fact, when I think I am is when I get in the most pain and get in the most trouble. And so that was another part that we started seeing people tying in. And then there's the part which is family and friends. They were actively working on relationships. They were giving into relationships. They were having open and real conversations and not necessarily walking on eggshells anymore. And so we thought, wow, this whole family and friends, this relationship aspect is another huge part of life. And then, of course, finances. Money makes the world go round. They were doing something that they were passionate about, or that was in their wheelhouse of purpose, and they were continuing to grow, not necessarily going back to school, but this day and age, University of Google or University of YouTube, doing something to learn and continue to expand. And there's a part of us that's always wanting to grow internally. And so we saw these 4 things, and we thought, man, the ones that are engaging in this are doing a lot better, just a little bit of work every day. But a week turns into a month, turns into a quarter to a year. There's so much growth. And then we felt like we were missing something for a while. And that was where we discovered the 5th foundational freedom, which everything sits on, and that's feelings. They were doing something daily to either talk about or learning how to investigate or collide with their own stories, their thoughts, their emotions. And they were learning how to feel different by asking different questions, by engaging in different types of behavior. And so with these 5 foundational freedoms, we found when we do a little bit of work every single day, it's compound growth over time. And this is how we start to retrain and rewire the brain, because when we make better choices, we tend to feel better. When we feel better, it's kind of this circle of we make then even better choices.
All right. I like how you're doing it in little micro steps. You're not like, oh, hey, guess what, guys? I got the cure, and right this second, I'll take it. You know, it's what it is, really. It's just little steps, and like you said, the fitness part, just taking a walk, man. Go outside, take a walk around the block. You know, I take the dogs for a walk all the time. You know, and I deal with diabetes myself, so here's a good example. So my doctor told me if my sugars are ever high, hey, just take a quick walk around the block, drink some water, come back and check them. And dramatically that number will go down. And it's like, okay, well, there's no science really behind this thing that's got to make it all. It's simple. Just go out, be active, you know, get your system going, you know, and things like that, you know. And the learning part is great too, because that's what I love about this show is that I get to learn new things every day, you know, new people I meet every day, all the things I have to learn. So I love how you're doing it in micro steps, because that's the way we should do it. It's just little by little. Don't try to make drastic changes, make little changes. And it's all things you do every day, honestly. Like you get up, go out, take a walk somewhere. All right, go read something, or, you know, spend some time talking to whoever's above for you, you know, things like that, you know. And meditation comes up a lot too, you know, and I'm really not shocked that I keep hearing it though, because meditation does wonders for people with anxiety and things like that too, you know, helps them focus and things like that. And everybody thinks it's like, oh, you got to be like this sit cross-legged kind of thing. It's not like that, guys. It's really not. I think people need to stop thinking that's what it is. It can be 5-10 minutes a day. Like some of my guests have come on that they talk about yoga and meditation kind of go hand in hand a little bit for them too. You know, they're like, you only got to spend like 10-15 minutes a day, you know, just doing it, and little by little, you know, and it resets your brain and things like that too. They're not asking you to sit here for 2 hours and do these kind of meditations and, you know, all these other kind of weird things that people start making it seem to be, you know. So I love the fact that the micro steps make sense, because you're not like trying to sell me oh, well, listen, I got a cure for you to take care of it the next hour for you kind of thing. Like, okay, calm down, Billy Mays, relax there for a second.
Well, no, I'm glad you said that, because that's where a lot of people struggle, and it's kind of human nature. But if I compare my day 1 to someone else's year 10, and so that's why these micro wins really help. And so that's where in the beginning, I mean, we've helped people. I remember we had one client come through, I think lost over 100 pounds within a year. But when you look at the big scale of things, like there's no way I can do that. But by breaking it down, by doing what we call reverse engineering, it's kind of like, well, what if I just walk around the block just once a day? And it's kind of like, well, I can do that. And so what happens is, as we start engaging in this new behavior, we create new habits. And all of a sudden, the block becomes an actual very short distance, where before it seemed so far. And then by doing these micro wins, then we can continue to adjust depending on the season of our life.
Yeah, you can challenge yourself to do more, you know, and then you're like, oh, well, I did that block. That's no easy. Let me go do more, you know, because, you know, I'm the same way too, because I hated walking, cardio, all that kind of stuff. But now I take the dogs out for a walk and things like that. I'm like, all right, you know what, today let's go for a longer walk. Let's go further, and just keep trying to push myself further every time, you know, and things like that. And I do it very little bit at a time too, you know. And I think, you know, fitness is great too, because, you know, weightlifting is great for reducing stress and things like that. You want to go do something. Now, I'm not saying go there and try and be, you know, Hulk Hogan and lift some crazy. No, just go and do your normal workouts, things like that. Focus on what you're doing. And I think that's a funny one too, is when people say they don't like going to the gym because they don't like people watching. I'm like, let them watch you. What does it matter? Put on a show for them. They want to watch something, let them watch something. What does it matter? I usually go, I'm the guy with those big old headphones on, and I'm just like, I'm zoned in. I'm not even worried about anything you're saying to me or looking at me doing and things like that too. So I love it. Though I think the 5 steps all hit the right points of things that just easy things you can do. It's not like anything that you got to do anything really fanatical, that you got to make major changes right this second, you know. And as you take those little steps, you know, what is it like? You remember, what about Bob? Remember how he kept saying baby steps?
Baby
Let's just
steps,
take the,
yeah.
remember that?
That's such a great movie.
It is,
Baby steps to the office.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, take these baby steps of what you're doing to try and better help yourself in these situations and things like that. I think people hyper focus too much on certain things, you know, and I think that's where it comes into, because a lot of those people run into, they'll be like, well, why is everything so bad for me? It's like, I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. Like, yeah, okay, things may be bad for you, but what can you do to change those things from being that bad? And I think that's what a lot of people forget. They all try to just take everything and try and make it go accelerated pace because we want it all now kind of thing. These days, everything's like quicker to lips. You can get all this, you can go to Amazon, you can go to these other places and get all these things instantly. I think people just need to learn how to slow down and be like, hey, okay, listen, make small goals like you were saying, and just achieve those goals. Okay, well, let me set a new goal to get to and just keep going little by little. And you see more success that way versus these people that are trying to speed through life and go, oh well, let's go do the adrenaline 1001 here and watch it complete crash at the same time.
Yeah, one of the things you brought up, it was a great point of sometimes like we know we need to go to the gym, but we won't because we're afraid of how we might be viewed. And it's impossible to control the narrative of other people of us, even though we are tragically trying. And I think that creates a lot of pain. So here's something that was shared with me that really helped change everything. They said, how you're really concerned how people are going to view you, and like, are they going to think you're kind of weird? I'm like, yeah. They go, yeah, everybody feels that. So when you're
Yeah.
walking in a room, there's 20 people there. Those 20 people are going, oh my gosh, what if I look this way? And so everybody is so concerned with what they're doing. They're actually missing getting to connect with other people, missing being on their authentic self.
Mhm.
And so you can go in knowing that everybody's concerned how they're going to look. So if you just go in and do your thing, they probably won't even notice you. And I thought, I never took myself out of my own equation thinking they're thinking the same things I am. So if we're all bringing our insecurities in together, we're also focused on ourselves. We're missing the entire process. So why not just go and be authentically me, because nobody's truly going to care.
That's true though. I mean, it's the true point though. I mean, you just be authentically you. Don't worry about whatever. I tell people, just don't worry about what everybody else does. My wife's big on that too. She's like, I don't like people staring at me in the gym. I'm like, no matter where you go, you're female. They're gonna stare regardless. I hate to bring these to you. It just comes with the gender. Unfortunately, men are just, some guys are just animals. I don't know what to tell you there. I can't control that for you, but I'm like, I'll go with you if you want to come with. And she's I think that's the thing she's trying to get over herself, is she just doesn't like all the eyes. I'm like, I highly doubt anybody's really paying attention 90% of the time. A lot of these guys are locked into what they're doing and things like that. And I go to this, like, the regular Planet Fitness or whatever, and I'm in there, and a lot of the people around me, you don't even notice them. A lot of these guys are all zoned into what they're doing, and you see some of these guys doing some heavy weight lifting and things like that. It's so cool to me. It's like, damn, now I want to try and do some of these things these guys are doing. Like, I'm looking to see what other people are doing because I'm like, hey, there's a new workout idea I could try and things like that. So I think it's the same thing anywhere you go. You go in any place, you walk in somewhere, everybody's staring at you. Like, you're in the quiet theater and the proverbial door opens and everybody stops and looks at you because you're interrupting everything. Everybody's looking at you. It's how you go from there. It's like, stop worrying about what everybody else thinks about you and worry about yourself, because at the end of the day, you have to worry about yourself. I mean, it may sound selfish, but at the same time, a lot of places you go, it's like they're only worried about themselves. So why don't you worry about yourself too? And it goes the same thing with a lot of your employers too. It's like, worry about you at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, they're going to find somebody to take your spot. Like, you think you're going to make some dramatic change or just making a dramatic scene leaving. It's like, no, you're not. Like, a lot of these places will have you replaced in the next 5 minutes because they've have so many people that want to be there and things like that. It's not to say that you're not valued as a person, but it's like, value yourself more before you start worrying about what everybody else says.
Well, and by being aware of this, what it does, it helps. Life is a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps expose my insecurities. If I'm afraid someone's going to judge me of something, all it is saying, here's something that I'm not okay with about myself yet. So the awareness part is actually good in that example. But the second part is I don't want to live in a reactionary lifestyle trying to hide or stuff down my insecurities. This is where a conscious decision becomes a beautiful gift of, okay, so if I'm afraid they're going to view something about me, is there something about me that I don't like that I can change? Or is it something that I'm not okay with, I can't change? So how do I begin to now not just be okay, but learn to love this part of me? And as we start engaging in these types of internal narratives and having this dialogue, this is how we begin to change our external world, because all of life happens up here and up here. When I'm in my head, I'm disconnected. When I'm in my heart, I can feel. So by connecting the two, it allows me to begin to become aware of what it is that I'm wanting to change because of this, what we call it the law of the mirror, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it does. Because like you said, you got to connect the two together because one does one and the other does the other thing. If you connect them, then you're more connected. And I love the analogy of the mirror, though, too, because a lot of times you start seeing your own insecurities of things, and stuff like that. You're really worried about people saying, "Oh, they won't like what I'm wearing," or "I'm too big for this," or "I'm too skinny for that." I can't wear this. It's a constant battle in your head all the time. And your thoughts get to you a lot of times too. And then when it comes to anxiety like that too, man, your brain starts cycling even faster. It's like you just start going to overdrive, man, and it's horrible for people, And I know myself because I deal with it sometimes. I start overthinking things. I start inventing new subjects and new scenarios in my head that make me think that, oh, okay, this is the problem, and things like that. So, let me ask you though about the book. Okay, so the
Okay.
recovery way, how did you come upon it? Is it something like is there a point in your life you're just like, hey, I just want to do it, or did something speak to you and come down and say, Mark, you need to write a book about this and help people?
So yeah, so the first part was I spent the first probably 7 to 10 years of my professional career of trying to heal myself. I think most people that want to help other people initially start because they want to heal something within themselves. And then one of two things happen. Either they don't know how, so they just continue to focus on other people, or they say, oh, here's what I've learned and what I figured out, and it's really working. Let me go and share this to see if it works with other people. And then as we find it starts working with other people, then we just continue to expand it and make the little tweaks. And that's eventually, for the longest time, people kept saying, man, what you're doing at your center works so well. Like, you need to write a book. And I thought, man, I barely graduated college. Like, I barely got out. So I am not a writer. I am not an author. And so when people would say it, I just kind of dismissed it for a while. And then a few years ago, so part of my morning routine, which again, those that DM me habits, I'll send it to you. And I lead from where I live. So I still do this every day. But one of my daily habits is daily solitude. And so I spend time what I call communing with my creator. And a couple of years ago, I got what I call a divine download, and it was, you're going to write a book. And I thought, oh gosh, that must be my mind because that's crazy. Hell no. And then I went about my day and I kept getting this like little tap, if you will, a spiritual tap saying, you need to go ahead and put what you're doing in a book because it's not what is being taught out there. And I thought, well, I don't even know how to write. And so this is where I got the clarity. I remember it was one morning, I get up pretty early. It's still dark out when my house is quiet. And I just got this divine download. I'm going to show you how to write a book. You're going to sit down for 1 hour every single morning from 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. And you're just going to go ahead, turn the computer on, and you're just going to go ahead and type. So that's going to be 365 hours. And I thought, but I don't know what to write, but I trust the process because I've been doing this work for so long. I've learned to trust the process, even if it doesn't make sense. So I remember sitting down and getting in front, and there were days where for an hour, I don't even think I hit a single key. I just went, I'm putting in the time. I'm doing the work. I'm being a good, what's the word? I just blanked. A good steward. In other days, I would type for an hour nonstop and I'd reread it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's really good. There's no way that's me. And so through this process, I went ahead and made a manuscript and just started sending it out and got rejected. And people said, this sucks, this is good. And so I just started kind of making these changes until eventually I read it. I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. Of course, mom supports everything. Mom read it. Oh, this is great. But I thought, who's going to be honest is clients in the center. They're going to rip this apart. And so I remember I bringing it in and the first person goes, Mark, I've never read a book from beginning to end. I couldn't put this down. It was like you were in my head and we were having a conversation, just two friends talking, but exposing everything. And I was like, whoa, that's really cool. And then as I started sharing this little manuscript, I got more and more feedback of people saying, it's like a conversation. I love that. Well, unbeknownst to me, every addiction book I've read is by these PhDs or doctors, which is beautiful, but it's like reading something written by an engineer. I don't know what the hell I'm reading. I don't know how to apply it other than, oh, that was kind of cool. That's a cool quote. And so I guess unconsciously, I blended the science of
Yeah.
addiction and the art of recovery, and kind of blended it together in just everyday conversation like you and I are having. And it just started to work. And so people started to read it, and we brought it in house. And I actually got a call probably, or actually it was an email from a parent, but maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, that apparently it found its way into a local prison, and people are starting to read it and saying, this is really changing how I view this whole thing. I think I can do this now. And it's just cool to see where it's ending up and the feedback that we're getting, all because I decided to do what's I call healthy selfish. It's first fruits, part of my morning routine, my daily habits of sitting down, having that quiet contemplation, communing with my creator, and just getting this little divine download to say, here's what you need to do.
That's awesome, though. I mean, the funny thing that made me laugh though during that is you're like, I've never written a book before. I can't do. I think it's funny because a lot of people that write books, it's the same thing. Something gives them that download. There was a woman I met named Sherry Ann. She had described her entity as spirit. So she said spirit channeled through her and told her how to write 11 books. Now I knew this woman has never written a book to this point, has no journalism background, anything like that. She just literally just something came to her, just like you, told you to do it, and it just channeled through her. And she ended up writing 11 books, 7 of which are bestsellers, which is just crazy because it's like it's hard to explain to people. You know what I'm saying? It's like you just get that download, all of a sudden it hits you. It's like, I need to do this. And it's the same thing in the podcast. You just like read the book. It was just like it hit me. It's like, listen, man, you need to do this. You need to start figuring out how you're going to do it, but you need to do this thing. Something was telling me to do this, just like somebody tells you to do the book, which I think was great though. It made it to the prisons too, because a lot of those guys, they don't get a lot of human interaction outside of just what's in there. So that's awesome to hear the book had made it there, that it's helping guys in there too, doing different things, man. You're on the road to something here too, because I know you said you also have a publication, the Recovery Way Manual. Do you want to give them a little rundown on what that is too?
Yeah, so basically that's just it's a blueprint of everything that's in the book, but how to apply it and to lay out a map for your life. So same
Yeah.
thing in our treatment center, we really help kind of the individual plan using our frameworks, but what they want in life. And one of the biggest reasons why most people continue to struggle is because they don't have a clear plan and they haven't turned their pain into purpose. A lot of people stay in the pain and keep sedating, so they never make it through that cycle. And so what we found is there's different frameworks where people can plug it in and they get clear on, here's what I want the future to look like for me. So one of the questions I love to ask people is, let's say that it is a year from now. So we're actually in the future looking back on the best year you ever had. What had to have happened over this past year? And then that is where in the beginning phases, people are like, well, I really don't know. And so we can flip it. Well, what don't you want to happen? Well, I don't want this, this, this. Once we get that list down, we can typically start doing the opposite. But once a person gets clear, it provides hope for the future. It creates this buzz and this excitement and this passion. And eventually, as a person starts actually building this life they desire, one of two things happen. Either it gets bigger and bigger and they continue to go even deeper, or they go, I thought this was what I wanted. It's not what I want anymore, but now I see even clearer what I do want. And now we start living a purpose-driven life.
Yeah. I like that. I like the fact that that's a positive outlook for that too. And once you get into something you really want to do, and if you look at the negatives and see the things that you don't want to happen, now you can look at, hey, how can I avoid hitting these potholes along my way to get to the life I want to live, kind of thing, and I think it's great, honestly. I think it's really good. I think that, it's really great that something's out there to help people that they can visualize things. Because some people are visual learners, everybody has their different way they like to learn. Some people are just kind of sight. Some people are just, they want to actually do it, kind of thing like that, And I think the workbook actually will help a lot of them get on track, and things like that too. And I think it's got a great little roadmap for them though, man. I'm excited. I'm like, I just love hearing about all the things you're doing, man. It's great, because recovery is a tough area to be in, especially with the lot of stuff you have to see, and you losing your aunt and everything like that. Little did you know it was going to lead to where you're at now, man. You're a published author, have all these great publications, you get these different manuals, you're helping people all the time using your own experience. And I love that too, that you've had a lot of experience prior, because like you said, it's great that these doctors have all these different manuals, but it's like, what the hell am I reading half the time? Like, you can't understand it, but for somebody to be able to break it down to you, like, all right, well, hey, listen, Mark, this is what it is, and breaks it down into things for you. It's so much easier, and in this area where I'm in now, it's a lot of times it's a lot of self-help doctors and things like that. But where are people having the conversations like this, just genuine conversation about the topics of whatever it is, whatever topic we pick, whatever area you're in, things like that. You don't see that a lot from a lot of people though, and it's so interesting to see that everybody wants to say, like, it has all these, like, because May's Mental Health Awareness Month. Okay, so we'll use that as an example. So you're going to see all these great videos pop up about, oh, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, da 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 da. Month later, guarantee 90% of those people are just going to fall off and be like, oh, never mind, we're done talking about the hot topics over. But what the problem is that it doesn't end there for the rest of us that deal with these problems, addiction, mental health, any of these kind of things, we still all deal with these problems, and I think that it's crazy how people just use it as a hot topic and then they just drop it. It's like, but what about the rest of us that still deal with these problems? Like you see people every day, they're still dealing with it. Okay, it's great that you want to be a part of the hot topic button this month, or next month. Well, this will be Men's Mental Health Month, and then you'll see a bunch of videos about men's mental health, and then it just fades away. And it's like, why? Why do y'all do that? It's just like, let's continue the conversation that nobody wants to have, especially men's mental health, because you and I both know that that's never talked about enough at all. Like, people don't want to talk about it. Guys don't want to talk about their feelings. And I had a guest on before. He said that him and his buddies in his fantasy football league, they all were like kind of looking in, waiting for somebody to say something. So they all jump in, kind of thing. Like, they're waiting for that one person to set the firecracker off, man, just let it go. And he said that one person had said something and everybody just started pouring out their feelings all at once, which was great, because it's like, I don't think we as men talk about it enough, and especially when it comes to a lot of those issues. You don't know when people are struggling. They put on that mask, and you wouldn't know, like you were saying, no one would ever know what your inner thoughts were that were going on in your head the whole time, all the ideation and all that other stuff was going on. And I think it's a great point, though, is that, just because people look like they have everything going for them doesn't mean that they don't have problems internally that they're not telling you about.
Well, and that's why having men's groups are so important for men. And the reason why is because the way you look at it is the kids look up and go to and rely on mom.
Mm-hmm.
Mom or wife looks up to and relies on dad or husband.
Mm-hmm.
And then husband or dad goes, I don't know where to go with this. So I better stuff and just keep showing up. And so fortunately, I learned this a while ago, and I actually have two men's groups. One's Christ-based and the other is business-based. But every single week, two different times every single week with two different groups of guys, we sit down and we get what we call real and raw, where we share our wins, but also we share our losses and our little failures. Doesn't mean I'm a failure, but what happens is when pain is shared, it becomes pain divided.
Yeah.
What it does, it normalizes the conversation. So when I share, man, I really messed up. I was short with my wife or my kids, and all the other dads or husbands say, I started doing that too. Now I don't feel like a failure and alone. It's like, oh, this is part of the human experience. But here's the great part. Now that I talked about it, now we can go ahead and start looking to make the change so we don't keep living the same way that we were before. When we don't have these conversations, we typically continue to repeat the past. They say if you don't learn history, you're condemned to repeat it. But we do this almost daily and weekly in our own lives until we start reaching out and saying, I'm gonna be the first man in this group that shares the truth bomb. And when I do, all the other guys are like, man, me too.
Right?
I thought I was really messed up. And it's kind of like, okay, good. Now, because we like fixing things, how are we going to fix this?
Right, exactly. I love it, though. Because it's the same thing. They're all looking, waiting for someone to shoot off that one comment, and then everybody's like, "Man, damn!" But about time somebody said it in this room, And I love it, man. I think it's great. We'll definitely get the links for those too, and I'll put them in the bio for this video as well. For anybody that's watching this at a later time than when we are actually recording this thing. I'll definitely get them in, put them in for you guys in case you want to be a part of Mark's groups and everything like that. Because I think it's great what Mark's doing. He's getting guys together, talking about their feelings and things like that. And, and it's great to feel like you're not alone, because I think that's the big thing about it, is that a lot of people feel like they're alone. And when it comes to a lot of things, fortune negative numbers, a lot of times that's the top thing they say, is that they don't feel alone. They feel a burden, things like that. But I think it's great when you have other people understand things, and you could reach out to them and say, hey, listen, I need, hey man, I need a vent or something, and that's great though, because you're connecting them all. And I'm sure a lot of them talk outside of the group, and a lot of friendships form that way too, because it's like, hey, at least I know I got a friend and I in need. If I need help or they need help, I could be a support system. And what you're doing is you're building a support system for everybody. And it's great, because it's always great to have those people you can reach out to understand what you're talking about. They're not going to look at you and go, what the hell are you talking about? Huh? What do you mean? And it's so taboo now. I think people need to stop stop stigmatizing it, going, oh, well, you're weak because you're talking about your feelings. No, it's called being in tune with your emotions. And it actually makes you more powerful than you realize, because now you understand yourself on a deeper level, because, and it's the conversation not a lot of guys like to have. So like, hats off, Mark. I love it. I absolutely love that you had the group and the guys all is sharing things together and things like that, and like I said, I'm gonna spread it everywhere I can to everybody I know, things like let them all know, because there's a lot of guys I talk to that talk about mental health, and there's a very small group of us that talk about it too a lot of times, and it's great to just get them in tune with other people and get them connected to other guys that are doing great things like that, so we can get everybody in there, and keep building your group even further for people. That way, we can get all these guys that they stop feeling so alone, and they can start having a place to share their feelings, because most guys don't talk about it, and when it comes to that subject too, ideation. A lot of guys don't talk about their thoughts when it comes to it. Statistically, guys are less likely to talk about it, but they succeed more than females do. And like I always say, it's not to say the other side doesn't matter, but it's like, we always talk about females being super emotional, things like that. But if a guy's super emotional, then we're a sissy and everything else, and we can't do this. And it's ridiculous. We need to break that stigma that it's not okay to share your feelings. Like, we're guys, we have feelings. I think everybody's too worried about the whole alpha male system. And I had talked to a woman named Betsy Holmberg, and Betsy and I, in a conversation we had for an hour long about this, we were talking about negative self-talk. Okay. So she was saying the way guys work is a tower system. And as all we know is you want to be the top dog in that tower system, because if not, you're still climbing to get up there. But females actually do more like a kind of like make everybody fit in kind of thing. And I think we can learn a lot from the other side. Like, I think we should go with the whole, making everybody feel included. Everybody know that, hey, listen, if you have something you need to say, somebody's here to listen, and things like that. And I think it's really great that, you have the two different groups. You have the business side and you have the faith side, because a lot of these business guys, they don't have a lot of time for anything else. So, what you're doing for them is amazing.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things we tell our clients is addiction is isolation, so that means recovery is community. And when we're able to show up in a community, we're able to have the strength in numbers, and that goes all the way back to the old Cro-Magnon days with the reptilian part of the brain of why we feel together. So yeah, I appreciate you, man.
That's awesome, man. That's great. So do you have any new books coming up by chance? Anything get down the pipeline you're working on?
No, I wasn't even planning on writing that one. So, but the biggest thing is the reason why it seems to be resonating so much is because what I used to think was a failure growing up. So I've had to take multiple reading comprehension and speed reading classes, because in junior high, I was reading at like a second or third grade level. So I had to do some additional education. And then in high school, I was retested and I was stuck around fourth grade, actually. So it took another one. And I'm thinking, being told, oh, you read too slow, you're dumb, you're slow. I was thinking it was a negative. Well, all these years later, joke's on the teachers, because of how I learn, I have to take things that I don't understand and really break it down, which for me is about a fourth grade level. Had no idea that's where people actually learn the fastest and ingrain it. So when I wrote the book and said, here's the actions to take, which is the 5 foundational freedoms, we got first fruits, which is the 5 to thrive. There's actually the 4 codes and how to expose the core life. So there's deep stuff, but I've been able to break it down in applicable steps and very simple frameworks. And that's where people are saying, you actually show what to do and it works. It's working. I'm like, who would have thought my learning disability would actually become my superpower? So there you go. It's a beautiful thing. If you have felt at any time someone says what you're doing is not working, or you're slow, or you're never going to get it, it might become your superpower.
That's true, though. That's really true. Given the example, exactly. So, Mark, let me ask you really quick though about finding happiness. What is that exactly about? It says the ultimate 30-day guide to creating wealth, maintaining health, and achieving lifelong happiness. Sorry. Blah.
So that was actually, I wrote that, gosh, like 2014, 2015.
Yeah, 2014.
That was never going to really be a book. It was just for me of trying to figure out how do I become more happy and fulfilled in life? And so I just started studying all different people's works, and I like some things from here, some things there. So basically it was just a 30-day manual for me to keep doing like 10 to 12 iterations every single year. And it seemed to really be working. And I thought, well, I'm going to put this down. And then that was where, same thing. Someone's like, hey, I've noticed a change in you. You seem to be doing really well. What are you doing different? And I'm like, well, I created a manual that I'm going off of, and eventually published it. And actually at its peak, it became number 2 in Amazon back in like 2014 or 2015. I'm like, who would have thought? So it's funny because I reread it probably 2 or 3 years ago, and there's some stuff that I don't agree with now, the version of me back then. But I'm like, how cool is this? Because if you're not contradicting yourself in life, it means you're not growing.
Yeah, true. It's funny, isn't it? If you're not contradicting, like just like you said, if you're not contradicting yourself, you're not growing because it's very simple. Again, we're back to the baby steps. Baby steps here, baby steps on the elevator. I love
good.
that. You know what I'm saying? So. All right, Mark, as we get ready to start wrapping up, did you want to plug where everybody can find you? I know you said Instagram's where you're at mainly. Do you have a website or anything for anybody to go to? Or
Yeah. So the website for our treatment center is www.pacificshoresrecovery.com. So that is all the fancy stuff, but I'm a nitty-gritty guy. So if you want to engage in a conversation, if you want, again, that habits blueprint, totally free, follow me at Pacific Shores Recovery on Instagram, and then follow me and just DM me habits, and I'm going to shoot that over to you, and then we can chat from there.
That sounds great. And like I said, I'll update everything. Make sure I have all the links down below for you guys. So you guys, in case you're watching this at a later time, you can find Mark. You just come click on the links, everything guys, take you over to him, visit him, all that great stuff. Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming, man. This was great. I really appreciate you coming, spending some time with us today, and sharing more about the book, man. And like I said, I'll definitely be keeping in touch because I may have a few other podcasts you might want to do, and things like that. Because I have a small little community of friends I stick with that I like to share. A lot of people that I meet, really great people like yourself, and try to get you out there more just so people can see the great things you're doing, buddy.
I appreciate that, Pete. Look forward to connecting again in the future.
Definitely, guys. And I'm Pete vs. Anxiety. I'm on anything from X down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify down to iHeartRadio. And I would say it costs nothing, absolutely nothing. Be kind to somebody. One kind act you can do can save someone's life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety saying, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health today?